Hi, welcome to the class. Today we are going to start a new chapter. The name of the chapter is calorimetry. So, the word calorie means heat and the word metry means measurement. So, basically what we are going to do, we are going to measure the heat in this chapter. So, this chapter is all about heat and its measurement. Okay. So, that's the meaning of the name of the chapter, calorimetry. So heat, we all know that heat is a form of energy which produces sensation of warmth. SI unit of energy, because heat is a form of energy. So SI unit of energy is joule and capital J is the symbol. Then practical unit of energy is calorie. And 1 calorie is equals to 4.186 joule, which we can round it off this figure to 4.2 joule. Then temperature we defined because we have to measure it also. So for measuring we need this physical quantity, temperature. Temperature, it is the degree of hotness or coldness of a body. So how hot or how cold a body is, that the temperature will tell us. Okay, so to measure the temperature you all use a device, thermometer. SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. It is written like this, Kelvin. So most of us think that the SI unit of temperature is degree Celsius, but that is not the case. Why we think? Because most commonly used unit of temperature is degree Celsius, but the SI unit is Kelvin. Now let me talk about an important concept here which we will be using in numericals, although it is not in syllabus, but some of the students get confused in this concept. So let me just do it once. So basically what happens is, there are this Kelvin scale and degree Celsius scale. They are nothing but they are the scales to measure temperature, two different scales. Okay. So how these two different scales are made up? These two different scales are made up by taking a very small value of temperature and a high value of temperature. So in both the scales, the very small value of temperature is taken as melting point of ice. So this is the smallest value, and the highest value is boiling point of water. So in both the cases, these two values will differ. Now, suppose we have started our scale. Scale means nothing, like we have the meter scale, a ruler. So in ruler, we start the values from 0 and then it keeps on going to 10 or 100 depending on what kind of scale do we have. Similarly, for Kelvin scale and degree Celsius scale, we have a scale of this type in which the smallest value is melting point of ice. This smallest value is melting point of ice, and the highest value is boiling point of water. Okay, and then certain values are given in between. Okay, so in both the cases the scale has 100 divisions. In both the cases the scale has 100 divisions. 100 divisions in both the cases. So this scale also has 100 division, this scale also has 100 division. Alright. Now what happens is, for this scale the melting point of ice is 273 Kelvin, and for this scale it is 0 degree Celsius. It means in this scale the 0 degree Celsius is equivalent to 273 Kelvin, and here the boiling point of water for Kelvin scale is 373 Kelvin, and for degree Celsius scale it is 100 degree Celsius. So as you can see, we have 100 divisions in both the scales, although the values are different. Now keep one thing in mind, we are not concerned about these two scales and the values there. Why I am touching upon this topic is that the reason is that these two scales, since they have 100 divisions, therefore the change in temperature for Kelvin, any two values you can take. So the change in temperature for Kelvin, let me take this highest value. So 373 minus 273. it will come 100 Kelvin. And for degree Celsius scale, if I take it highest value 100 minus 0, so it will come 100 degrees Celsius. So you can see the change in temperature in both the scale is having the same value. I hope I am making it very clear to you. Now this is the point which we need to remember and which we need to understand. That the change, this is a symbol delta, and this delta is used to represent change. So change in temperature in Kelvin scale and change in temperature in degree Celsius scale will have the same value. So this is what I wanted to bring to your notice, and that is why I have touched upon this topic. So I hope I am clear about this thing. Now let's begin to the other topic. And the other topic is about when we heat up a substance, the heat taken by the substance depends on certain factors. So let us discuss those factors. So my symbol for heat energy is going to be Q. Q is the heat energy. So if I heat up a substance, that substance is going to absorb some heat, and the amount of heat that substance is going to absorb depends on certain factors. The very first factor is depend upon the mass of the substance. So heat absorbed by the substance depends upon the mass of the substance. So how does it depend upon the mass of the substance? This heat taken by the substance is directly proportional to the mass of the substance. It means more the mass of the substance, more will be the heat absorbed by the substance. Number 2, change in temperature. Change in temperature. Now as I told you, this change is represented by this delta. So whenever I write this delta, it means I want to represent a change. So change in temperature, it means heat energy absorbed by the substance is directly proportional to this delta T, change in temperature, and this is directly proportional to mass. It means more the change in temperature, more is the heat absorbed by the substance. So suppose the substance is at 10 degrees Celsius, and after heating it reaches to 90 degrees Celsius. What it shows you? It shows you that it has absorbed a certain amount of heat. But if you take another substance whose initial temperature was same, that is 10 degrees Celsius, but the final temperature is just 50 degrees Celsius. So what does it mean? The other substance has not absorbed that much heat because the change in temperature for the other substance is less as compared to the previous one. I hope this is clear to you. Now if I combine these two factors, so Q is directly proportional to M and it is directly proportional to T. So I have combined these two and I have written them together. As I have told you in my previous class also that whenever we remove this proportionality, what is going to come? So equality will come along with a constant, and this is a constant. So when I tell about any constant, I always tell my students that first of all, before naming this constant, you should understand that this is the constant of proportionality. Constant of proportionality. This is a constant of proportionality. And if I name this constant, the name of this constant is specific heat capacity. So specific heat capacity is the name of this constant. So this C is the constant of proportionality. Its name is specific heat capacity. And one more thing I want you people to understand, that this C is a characteristic of nature of the material of the substance. Now this point becomes very important. Characteristics of nature of the material of the substance. It means the substance which we are heating, what are the characteristics of the material of that particular substance. So now let us talk about in detail about the C, which is the specific heat capacity. Don't confuse it with the speed of light. This is not speed of light. This is specific heat capacity. So now I will explain you about this C, that is the specific heat capacity. It is very important. So first of all, before going into details of C, let me figure out the SI unit for C. So from this formula, C can be written as Q upon M delta T. Here Q, SI unit of Q is Joule, SI unit of M is kg, and SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. This delta is the change in temperature. So SI unit of C, that is specific heat capacity, is Joule per kg per Kelvin. So this is the SI unit of C, and this is how we can calculate this C. Okay. Now, if I define this, how I am going to define it now, that becomes important. Initially, what I told you that the heat absorbed by a substance depends on two factors. One, mass of the substance. More the mass of the substance, more will be the heat absorbed. And second, change in temperature. More the change in temperature, more is the heat absorbed by the substance. Two factors are there. But now this C has come. What it tells us? Suppose I gave you two different materials. So don't you think that depending upon the nature of material of that particular substance, the heat absorbed by the substance will change? So that is one important factor. How I can tell you about this thing? I'll give you an example. Suppose I take an egg and potato. So you know that the substances are different, egg and potato. I have taken equal mass of these two. Let us say I have taken 1 kg of egg and 1 kg of potato. So mass is fixed, this mass is fixed, and I heated, both are kept at the same temperature. So initial temperature is T1 is, let us assume 30 degrees Celsius, and here T2 is 30 degrees Celsius. When they are heated, the final temperature, let us say 100 degrees Celsius, and then this is also 100 degrees Celsius. Now my question to you is, as we say that the heat absorbed by any substance depends upon the mass of the substance, it depends upon the change in the temperature. So change in temperature, here it is 100 minus 30, 70, here it is 100 minus 30, 70. Now mass is same, change in temperature is same. But if you heat these two substances, you will figure out that potato will absorb more heat as compared to egg, and this happens. Okay, potato is going to absorb more heat as compared to egg. So why it is happening? Because this specific heat capacity for potato is more. It means this C, specific heat capacity, is also going to determine whether a substance is going to absorb more heat or less heat. So this C becomes very important for us to understand. So this one example I gave, that how C varies for different substances and how the amount of heat absorbed by the substance depends upon this. So that is why I wrote characteristic of nature of the material of the substance. Like potato will have higher specific heat capacity as compared to the egg, although given the masses of these two substances are same and change in temperature in these two substances is same, but still the potato is going to absorb more heat as compared to the egg. So that was one of the case where I discussed about C. So if I have to define this C, how I am going to define it? I am going to define it in the same way. If M is 1 kg, I am going to take it as 1 kg. That mass, if I keep the mass fixed, because I know that how heat absorbed depends on mass, and if delta T is equals to 1 Kelvin. If I keep it 1 Kelvin, if I keep it 1 kg, then C is equals to Q only. You know that if I put this as 1, this as 1, it is going to Q only. What I told you in case of potato and egg, that potato is going to absorb more heat because the specific heat capacity of potato is more. Although the masses of both the substances taken were same and the change in temperature for both the substances was same. So specific heat capacity, if I write the definition, I will write it here. And what I write? Specific heat capacity of a substance is the amount of specific heat capacity of a substance is the amount of heat. This Q is heat absorbed when by unit mass of a substance to raise its temperature by 1 Kelvin, or per degree Celsius you can write, or per Kelvin you can write. So you can see, as I told you, heat energy absorbed by a substance depends on two factors: mass of the substance, and it depends upon the change in temperature of the substance. But C also tells you about the amount of heat energy absorbed by the substance. As for some substances, if we take two different substances and they have the same mass and the same change in temperature has taken place, that in that case also you will find that some substances absorb more heat as compared to the other substance, because this C plays an important role. Okay, so this was about C. So let me continue here itself, that how C plays an important role. Just to give you an example. So specific heat capacity for water is fixed, and its value is C is equals to 4180. Unit would be, what would be unit? Joule per kg per Kelvin. In your book sometime it is written as 4200 also, so that is okay, but in my case I am going to write it 14180. So specific heat capacity for water is very high. Specific heat capacity for water is very high. So if the specific heat capacity of water is very high, what uses we can have with this high specific heat capacity of water? We can use water as a coolant. Why we can use water as a coolant? Because in order to increase the temperature of 1 kg, what do you mean by this statement? That is, specific heat capacity of water is really high and the value given is 4180 joule per kg per Kelvin. If I ask you a question that explain this statement, then how do you do that? So I will say that 4180 joule of heat energy is required for 1 kg of water to raise its temperature by 1 Kelvin. So as you can see, for water, for 1 kg of water, in order to raise its temperature just by 1 Kelvin, you need this much of heat energy. That is a tremendous amount of heat energy, and that is the reason that water is used as a coolant. So this was just an example that how specific heat capacity affects the properties of a substance. So this was the specific heat capacity of water, 4180 joule per kg per Kelvin. And if I ask you the question that you have to explain this statement, then 4180 joule of heat energy is required to increase the temperature of 1 kg of water by 1 Kelvin. Okay, so this was about water. Now a small thing I would like to introduce here, that is about a small topic, heat capacity. So this was a specific heat capacity and this one is heat capacity. So like specific heat capacity, it is denoted by C, heat capacity is denoted by C dash. Sometimes they ask you to calculate this value also. It is nothing, it's a very simple concept. And if I tell you this concept, how it works, so you need not to get confused with anything. As I told you, Q is equals to mc delta T. So C is equals to Q upon M delta T. So what I am going to do is, if I multiply this C by M on both sides, C into M is equals to Q upon M delta T multiplied by M. This M will go off and this will become this heat capacity. It means you have to just multiply your specific heat capacity by mass. If you do that, it becomes C dash. And indirectly I'm telling you the relation itself. So this can be written as C dash is equals to C into M, this, and its value is Q upon delta T. It means it is nothing but like we have defined it for unit mass. Here I have written unit mass. In case of heat capacity, there is no mass involved in the formula. So the formula for specific heat capacity is Q upon delta T. There is no mass involved. That's it. So it means it is the amount of heat energy required to increase the temperature of the substance by unit degree. So that is it. So this relation is important, that C into N, specific heat capacity into mass, is equals to C dash, or C is equals to C dash upon N. And if you take out the SI unit for C dash, it will be joule per Kelvin. So this is about the heat capacity, specific heat capacity. Now some of the examples we will discuss about a specific heat capacity, and that we will do in the next class. Thank you.